Hello, everyone, and welcome to the latest episode of Monte Wolf. I'm dGon, not Monte. He's Wolf, also not Monte.
And Monty's right over there.
I'm Monty.
Monty's right over there.
He's here. He's alive. He exists.
So this is a special episode because we're filming some other stuff together here in Songdo. So we're not actually at our PCs like we normally are. And so looking up stats and stuff like that is not as available. We have our phones only. So we're trying to remember, everything that happened last week and try to sum it up for you guys because it's a bit of a special episode.
Why are we making excuses already? It's the first 30 seconds. It'll be fine.
Yeah, we'll see.
Right.
dGon likes to go, well, how many times do you think Aiming has played Lucian this season and do that kind of stuff? And I don't think that's happening because he's cheating. He's using his browser that he doesn't have access to.
That's true. There's no facts of the week this time. But we've got storylines to cover. And let's start at the tippy top. At the beginning of the week, we had the big matchup. It was GenG versus Hanwha Life Esports. It was supposed to be a banger, and it was.
It kind of was.
It was high level. But I don't think it was a banger.
It wasn't really a banger.
It wasn't
like after game one, we were like, "Oh shit!" Hanwha had a lead. They threw it away, and it felt like at that point, everyone was like, "Oh man, it's going to be a 2-0 stomp. Like, there's no way that Hanwha was going to stand a chance." And then in game two, GenG had the far inferior draft, we thought, and they still almost won. Yep. And that was when everyone was like, "Okay, this is really cooked. Like, definitely GenG is the better team." They're 100% the stronger of these two. And then in game three, it was a stomp. And they won like the most clean one where they actually had a lead for the first time, unlike games 1 and 2. And GenG just looked like they were the better team in general. Like they had better team fighting, they had better setup on objectives. And Hanwha, their freestyle that they've been running for so many weeks now, where like eventually they're going to get caught, eventually they're going to slip up, got kind of exposed, I felt like. Like GenG just looked way more methodical. And Hanwha have such a strong roster that I think that they can play like that, where they can just fuck around like they often do, draft whatever they want, and just win, but not against GenG.
And even in their win, it did require a throw on GenG's side. It almost felt like identical. And I think the learnings were more on Hanwha's side than it was GenG's side, other than the fact that the unbeaten game record is now over. It's at 21 games, or 22 games, something like that. But their perfect record goes on. For Hanwha, then the question became, okay, you lost against GenG, the best team in the world, whatever. Let's see the bounce back here against Dplus on the Saturday Showdown. And instead, we got a revitalized Dplus who lost to Bro earlier in the week, who looked lost and adrift, who to me are one of the most frustrating teams because you don't know what you're getting. They beat Hanwha and pretty decisively in this one.
Yeah, I think Dplus is one of those teams that we make a lot of memes about it. There's the formula, like win game 1, lose game 2, and then like game 3 is not even a game, you get stomped.
Yeah.
But they're a team that, like, analysis aside, like we can kind of analyze the psyche of Dplus. And they are a team that are so form-based. Like, if their form is good that day, like, people say, like, okay, what matters is, like, your form on the day.
Yeah.
And for League of Legends and these professional teams, sometimes it's just like, nah, it doesn't matter. For Hanwha Life, their form is bad, but they're still better than, what everybody else, and they usually have that bar set. But Dplus, we know that on their best day, they could be a top 3 team in the LCK. And on their worst day, they could lose to Bro, right? And, like, that is the story of Dplus this season. So it's really hard to place them. It's really hard to rank them because tier list wise, they don't fit into any boxes because they don't actually consistently deliver the same performance day after day, week after week.
Yeah.
And so on their best, like they can make Hanwha on Fraud Watch. And on their worst, like they make Bro look like a good team,
Yeah.
And I think Bro has improved a lot, to be fair. They had a really good series yesterday as well, even though they ended up losing ultimately. I think, Dplus right now is so hard to rate because it's not even just about how their form is, but specifically ShowMaker's form.
Yes.
Like his Ahri performance against Hanwha Life was pretty insane, but then you see his Ahri the previous week and you're like, does he know how to play this champion? Like, what's going on?
Yeah. And going back to Hanwha, it feels like now they've been figured out by this patch. The changes into the jungle, right, where the skirmishing junglers are now very much in charge, Whereas these tanky junglers, the Sejuani, the Skarner, dropping in priority means Peanut is less effective, which means someone's got to tank, which means Zeus has to play tank, which means he's not allowed to affect the map or get those massive gold leads that allows them to cover up the mistakes in the mid game when they start dicking around. Means that this team is a little bit less strong. It's a little bit less firepower.
I think picks like Poppy also are kind of falling off a little bit right now as a jungle pick, because you have champions like Lucian rising back up into the meta, and Lucian's pretty safe. Like, he has his dash, obviously, and he does a lot of damage. So if you end up messing up your engage, like if you mess up your Sejuani or Poppy engage into an Ezreal, you know, it's like, well, Ezreal can't really do that much to you. You don't get punished as much. Like, even in the late game, Ezreal's burst damage isn't going to kill Sejuani, but you fuck that up against a Lucian, and Lucian will just proc his passive repeatedly and actually will kill you. Like, he has that burst damage, he has that added safety, and so I think those picks are falling off as a result of the rise of Lucian as well. And yeah, I mean, I think Peanut in general right now is his inconsistencies that we've been kind of talking about, like some of his weaker performances are dragging the team down in a meta where hands matter for playing jungle. Because Peanut used to just be like, oh, my pathing is better than you, my brain is better than you, so like I'm at the right place at the right time, and that's good enough. And right now I don't know if that's in fact good enough. And when you see performances from players like Owner from Canyon, you're like, Peanut is just not in their tier right now.
Yeah, in that game against Dplus, they picked the Nidalee early, and you're thinking, okay, we've seen the Zeus top Nidalee, he'll get a lead, can kind of stay away from the Yorick and bully the Yorick a little bit, but they then move it to the jungle because someone had to tank, and then Zeus picks Cassante, and all of a sudden, the team doesn't look as good. So as much as Dplus is whatever's going to happen on the day, which can have high highs, can have low lows, I'm more worried about Hanwha and their ability to kind of wade through this requirement for a tank that is going to limit Zeus's power.
Yeah, I think they're not drafting for Zeus the same they could before, and Zeus's side laning is a little bit hindered by Peanut's inconsistencies, where he's not able to push those advantages as hard when he's playing like the hard winning lanes, the Nidalee, the Cannon that he was drafting before, but he isn't drafting anymore. He's just not looking as impactful. And Zeus has been, unfortunately, like, I don't think his performances have been inconsistent, but his playstyle is very predictable and very punishable. And when Peanut isn't there for him because something else is happening, there's a hole on the other side of the map, or Zeka isn't in full control of a side lane matchup, then Zeus like still plays the same way and still gets caught and still gets punished, and hasn't showcased like the ability to be more flexible. His Cassante performance, while he played great Cassante games in the past, like didn't feel like 2024 Zeus to me. So I think Hanwha is also, Hanwha's having all those struggles on top of, like, they're a very strong team fighting team, but when they're behind, they seem like they don't know how to fight as well. Like, they lack the clutch that T1 has, for example, where T1 will be behind, they'll be able to set up something, Faker will have this cool teleport angle, or Ono will have this really clutch play. Hanwha, like, choke in those moments. They're like a little bit slow, and then somebody goes in at the wrong time, and then they fall apart. If they have total vision control, if they have prio on the objective, if they're the ones controlling everything, and Zeus is on a flank where no one can punish him, like, they look so good. While they're winning, they win insanely hard. When it's a close game, things get a little bit rocky, and that's, like, for me, why right now I'm starting to feel like maybe T1 is actually our second best team. We'll find out next week, right? But, like, I'm starting to get that feeling that Hanwha isn't clear second anymore. We'll find like proof of this when we see T1 against Hanwha next week, and then we'll have playoffs. Obviously, the road to MSI will have those two match up in a best of 5, where maybe some of T1's champion pool issues get exposed. But I do feel like there's a conversation we can have now, where before we were kind of like teasing about it, like, is T1 the second best team? But now we're like, okay, we're gonna get our answer soon.
Yeah.
And it's very clear that Hanwha, and the gap between GenG and Hanwha is big. Like, you and I have discussed this.
I didn't think it was that big. Well,
at the time, we couldn't know for sure. We couldn't know for sure. But, like, now I think we could start to really feel there is quite a significant gap.
Yeah. After this week, the gap was big. And then after the loss to Dplus, now it's worrying. Now you're not worried about the person in front of you. You're worried about T1 behind you. And we'll get that answer very, very soon. I feel like we're giving so much focus on this Hanwha Life roster on that top jungle duo. I mean, Viper and Delight didn't have the greatest series. Zeka was the catalyst in the win on Taliyah, but otherwise kind of muted. Is it just really about those two, in your opinion?
I mean, I feel like Viper has been doing his job pretty well, like overall. And even though I said there's a lack of a clutch factor in those later team fights, Viper has never caught, like never dies first in almost any scenario. Like he has, obviously, because playing AD carry is hard in this meta, but like he normally doesn't get caught.
Yeah. His
teammates try to do the best they can, and he's just like, okay, you know, we've made this joke a million times, but he's like, okay, I guess I'll carry, and he does clean up all those fights. So I think Viper isn't the problem. Yeah, Delight's had some shaky engages, again, when they're in those murkier situations that aren't as straightforward, like where they're win more. Yeah. Sometimes Delight has made some questionable decisions on like rail engages and stuff like that, but I think that they really need to tidy up what happens between objectives in side lanes, like in the kind of a lull state, as we call it often at the LCK, where, you know, Dragon's up in 3 minutes, you have some vision on top side, but there's no Baron. What do you do? Like, Zeus is just like, well, I'm going straight to the inhibitor. I don't have full vision there, and Peanut's not on my side of the map, but I'm going as close to the inhibitor as I can get. And we keep seeing these fights where the enemy team is like, well, we don't have vision and we don't have a lot of control, but I'm pretty sure I just saw Peanut topside and Zeus is pushing bottom towards inhibitor, and let's just kill him, and somebody TPs in and kills him. And like, they need to tidy up how to play through that side lane pressure. It's weird to say this because I feel like Peanut has in the past been so good at shadowing, you know, his side laner, like whether it was Doran in the past, etc. But this season it feels like he's just not at the right place in the late game. His early game pathing is as strong as ever, but in the late game, things are. It's almost like Peanut and Zeus disagree on what they should be doing. It feels like when you watch the games. I'm not saying that's 100% what's happening, but it just feels like, why is Peanut over here when Zeus is like trying to hit the inhibitor and now dying, you know?
Yeah, and that felt solved because of champion power, and there were times where Zeus was able to get out of dodge, or where, you know, Peanut's tankiness would be able to get him out like with the sliver of health, but now it's getting punished by those teams, and that's what we've been wondering. Will these mistakes and I guess huge, like risky
overextensions,
yeah, like get punished by better teams? And now it's not even just getting punished by better teams, it's getting punished by Dplus, who's middle of the road, and we'll get to them in just a second. But it's time to remind you about our friends over at Into the AM. They currently have their Memorial Day sale, where items are up to 70% off site-wide until the 1st of June. This is in addition to the 10% off you always get by using our code intotheam.com/LFN. Again, here's Monte, boom, t-shirts galore. You can go check that out. Hoodies, Henleys. This t-shirt as well. It's covered in cat hair. Cats love it. Here, you want to see more? You can just see, here's my thighs. You see these shorts? Pow. I love these bad boys. They're some of my favorites. Ugh.
I mean, you saw Monty's shirt a second ago. They have a ton of graphic t-shirts with a lot of awesome designs, and they also have just regular shirts like what I'm wearing here. So no matter what kind of shirt wearer you are, if you're the kind of guy who wants to show your personality on your shirt, or if you're more like me, who just wants to keep it extremely basic, like they have something for you.
Yep, intotheam.com/LFN. Get yourself that extra 10% off their Memorial Day sale, which has some items up to 70% off until the 1st of June. Thanks to our friends over at Into the AM. They've been an awesome partner here on Last Free Nation. All right, let's dive into the middle of the pack, because the soup has been busy. It is no longer being K-Fear-X. The bros had an opportunity yesterday and fucked it up. I'll just say it. They fucked it up.
They fucked it up bad, yeah.
Because in game one, they shit all over Nongshim. And like, then in game two and in game three. In game two, they had a bro and brew draft. And then in game three, it was close until it wasn't. So anyways, props to Nongshim for defending the success that they've had so far in the season. I sometimes forget how much Nongshim has won. Like, I cannot believe they are out of that soup. They're the highest ranked out of the soup. At the 9-8, it's them, KT, and Dplus. They're 9-8 with more of the game score wins. They had better 2-0s earlier in the season.
So right now, Nongshim and KT are technically one game apart of each other. They're both 9-7, with +2 for Nongshim, +1 for KT, and the Dplus is at 8-8, but they're actually at the flat 0. So they're 20-20. So the difference there is so minuscule, and one of these three teams isn't going to get out. The fact that Nongshim was able to clutch it out against Bro.
It was huge.
Or Bro toss it away, whichever way you want to look at that.
No, they clutched it.
That was not the best ending for Bro. They had a really nice angle, but they couldn't quite get it done. Either way, if Bro had won that, you'd be looking at an 8-8 Nongshim just like Dplus, and they would also be, at +1, so just one game ahead of Dplus. Now for Dplus, they're like, man, I really needed that to happen, so we have a little bit more wiggle room. We look at upcoming matches, just to pull this up one more time. So Dplus have the match against DNF and Nongshim. So the DNF one's like a freebie, basically. So that should push them to 9 wins. But the match against Nongshim may just straight up be the decider. I think it likely will be.
Yeah.
As KT's remaining matches are against GenG, which is, we've been memeing that they'll upset that one, but they probably won't. But then they have DRX. So like they should be able to get a win. And Dplus should be able to get that free win against DNF. And Nongshim against T1 doesn't sound like a W.
Nope.
So if it is, then they don't have to worry as much about that Dplus matchup. But I think ultimately that final match of the regular season will be the decider of whether or not Dplus or Nongshim is going to the Rise Group. Now, if DRX upsets KT, then everything can change. Yeah. But I don't think we're going to be predicting that outcome right now.
Who did you have? Who did you have making it through? I remember who I had making it through.
I think I had KT and Nongshim. I think.
I had KT Dplus. I had Nongshim because of those last 2 games, and I predicted Bro to beat Nongshim. I was like, okay, if I base off my predictions and that strength of schedule in the final week, like it just felt like Nongshim, although a great story, listen to your young, Lehen shot calling everyone, doesn't matter who they're rifling in at mid or at 80 carry, he'll shot call everyone. It was going to fall apart at the end, and they've somehow been able to keep it together.
When Dplus has had these matches where they've won, like for example against Hanwha, no one expected them to win that, right?
Yes.
And they end up getting the upset there. Playing against GenG, no one expects them to win, but they have that upset in game 1, and you're like, oh shit, like maybe Dplus could do it.
Yes.
I think when the pressure is not on Dplus, and ShowMaker's like, I'm gonna play for funsies, I'm gonna pick whatever I want. Like that's the kind of team that they are, where they will surprise you. When the pressure is off, they play at their best, seemingly, which is what makes me worry that they'll lose to Nongshim, because this time it really matters. This time it's very important. The same way they lost to Bro, where it's like, oh, we can't lose to Bro. Like we're trying to regain our form. Like it feels like that matchup, they felt like, well, this should be winnable, so we can't fuck this up, and then they fucked it up.
Yeah.
And then against Hanwha, they're like, oh, well, that one's like impossible. It's fine. We'll go next week, and then they win that one. I'm not saying obviously that's the mindset these players have going in, but it seems like in these more high-stakes matches that matter a lot, Dplus disappoint us more often there than when they're the underdogs.
Right.
Then they tend to overperform. And because this matchup is so important, I feel like right now, even though they just beat Hanwha, I'm like ready to predict Nongshim, It's not based on the peaks of Dplus and what I think their gameplay looks like, because I think at Dplus's best, 100% they smash Nongshim. Yeah. But are we going to get their best? It feels like probably not, because they're going to get too stressed out about what it means, and then they'll underperform.
I feel like that final game, here's just an analogy, you look up and it's like, okay, here's Heaven, there's GenG, Hanwha, here's T1, and whoever else is there. And then you look down and it's like, down below in the depths, it's like a very happy but like covered in dirt. It's like DRX and Bro and BNK like, hey Dplus, come hang out with us. And you look up and you're like, oh God, please, this is where I want to be. I don't want to be anywhere else. And that stress. And like, I can't believe we're not even talking like nuts and bolts about the game. We're literally talking about stakes and stress, because they defy logic right now.
I know aiming was really criticized, especially by Cadril. I saw the clip, but aiming was really criticized for his
tissue paper.
Yeah, he was really criticized in the Pro Series. But like, he had the best KDA in the final game, and like, yeah, he played a little bit KDA, played a little bit safe in some of those moments on Lucian where he should have actually been more aggressive. But I think that aiming has been very solid. I think he has had very few weak games throughout the season. It's like ShowMaker really struggling, Barrel really struggling, and then now like the new narrative is like, oh, then Shiu and Lucid are also just like they couldn't deal with it anymore. Now they're also bad. I'm like, no, I think it's really just, is ShowMaker on point, and that's all you need. Like if ShowMaker's having a good game, they look great. If he's having a bad game, then Lucid doesn't have prio because ShowMaker's losing lane in a matchup he's supposed to be winning, and then Lucid can't play the game, and he's always playing through ShowMaker, just like Canyon always played through ShowMaker. It's like, This is the new era of Dplus, right? Like it's very similar to old Dplus rosters.
For any North American viewers, it would be like whoever was Bjergsen's jungler. Same thing. That's an NA reference. I don't know.
If Bjergsen's winning, the jungler has opportunities. If he's losing, they don't, right? it's the same shit. And like aiming and Barrel often just roams and leaves aiming alone. He's been self-sufficient in those moments. Barrel might fuck up aiming's lane, and yet he still ends up being okay. Like Barrel insta lane and aiming does fine in most cases. It's about ShowMaker, and if ShowMaker is losing, then Lucid loses power, and if ShowMaker is losing, he's not team fighting well. He's missing his charms, or like he's just not doing damage, ShowMaker has had so many bad moments on his ear. Like I think he's like 1-5 on the champion or something absurd like that.
It's bad.
And he has had these games where he like flash shuffles in and just misses everybody, or like goes in and then just gets stunned and dies and doesn't even ult, and you're like, Schoenberg, that wasn't the angle. Like
his rise has been really bad too.
His rise has been a struggle.
That was the one where he TP'd into the lane and then died, right? It was on rise, yes.
Yeah, it's ShowMaker needs to have good Azir performances when this champ is so meta.
I will say though, in the Hanwha series, he gave up first blood by face checking into the bush on like a pre-3 minute gank into Peanut, and he recovered. Like that's what I was most worried about. It was like, okay, if Dplus get punched in the face first, it's over. They're like made out of glass. And they weren't. They showed resilience. They were able to battle back. He was able to stabilize the lane. And I think that needs to be, if I'm Bengi, if I'm Pumandu, coaches of Dplus, I kind of like, yes, you got to do all the technical stuff, but from a ethos, from a mindset perspective, it's, hey, remember when you gave first blood, the game's not over, just adjust to the game state from there. Remind these pros that. It sounds so silly because of how long he's been playing, how good he's been, all the accolades that everyone has got on that roster, even Lucid and Chiwu as the, one of the contenders for Rookie of the Year. It's some resilience for this team.
Yeah, well, I think it's not really silly though what you say, because the longer your career as a professional in any profession really, if you start to doubt yourself even a little bit, that's when like even all of your experience could be like washed away in a moment of doubt, where you second guess yourself and you start making decisions that aren't correct. I think it's probably happened to all of you watching at home, whatever you do. Like you've probably had a moment where you're like, oh, this is a rough week for me, and then you kind of spiral for a minute until somebody like slaps you and wakes you up and gets you back into the right swing of things, or you do it to yourself. You wake yourself up, you shake yourself out of it. But ShowMaker, at his best, he could be like a top 3 mid laner, actually, like in some of his best games. But we're just not. We're seeing that I feel like 40% of the time, and 40% of the time isn't good enough, you know. And that's why, like, when we talk about this race, it's the race to the Rise group, or the Legend group rather, escaping the Rise group in this case, as it is. I can't trust ShowMaker right now. Like I can't do it, even though
more than Calyx?
The most recent performance is trustworthy, right? But then rewind a few days back and you're like,
he ran into the year of closer. That's not his fault.
Yeah, well, it's just a question of, like, I don't think it's necessarily, is ShowMaker better than Calyx? It's like, which ShowMaker are we going to get? Because Calyx is pretty consistent, and the bar, we know the Calyx bar, like, where it is, and the best ShowMaker is, like, way above it. But the worst ShowMaker is also below it.
The Calyx bar is getting a little lower.
It is.
I feel like we're hanging our hat on something that is starting to slowly sink.
Sure. Not
as bad as Jiwoo and Vital, but it's not as solid as it was when he first subbed in and impressed everyone.
I think the power that Gideon is a really strong jungler, and he's been very consistent, and the power that winning lane gets you for Gideon, and like how important Lucid is for Dplus as well is very important. So that mid matchup is going to be, I think, the focal point. And also, like, do they just ban ShowMaker's Ahri? Like, Ahri is in the top tier list of mids right now, but it feels like ShowMaker's best performances where he can actually clutch are on Ahri. If you give him Azir and, like, Talia's banned, if you look at it, like, from a scholastic perspective, you're like, oh, yeah, like, this is really good for ShowMaker. He's got Azir, there's no Talia, it's really strong, there's a lot of engage opportunities, a lot of power in the lane, a lot of power in the side lane. But you're like, ooh, but it's ShowMaker's Azir. I'm not sure if that's relevant. Like, I think that ShowMaker could be targeted in draft. Which sounds weird to say, because in the past, he would pull out like the Cho'Gath or the Pantheon mid or et cetera, et cetera. He plays Syndra, and we're like, oh shit, like is it? And then he loses. But that's what I'm saying. Like the ShowMaker wide champion pool of like he can play anything, don't target him in draft, I feel like is no longer relevant.
I wanted to just dive deeper into this because we talked about it on broadcast very briefly, but the reason why ShowMaker was able to do that before was because you only needed mastery of mastery of 3 to 4 champs, maybe, if you didn't get target banned. And that allowed him to spend more games practicing those fringe picks. But now, because of Fearless, your pool needs to be about 6 champs, and all of them have to be good.
Yeah, you need to be like insanely good at Silas just because you might have to play it that one time. You know?
The Silas, the Talia, Yone, Ari, Azir. I'm missing one. What's one more that you...
I mean, Corki honestly could be one. Like, I think
Corki?
right now Corki is still like one of those picks that's very relevant. I don't think you have to play Tristana right now, but those are the main ones. Victor.
Yes. Oh, Victor. Sorry.
Victor.
Yeah, thank you. Victor.
That was the one you were thinking of.
So you have to be proficient at all 7. Not like before you could be good at 3, maybe 4, or like great at 3, 4, and then you could be good at a couple.
Faker's
others.
Made a whole grand finals by playing a 0 only the whole time.
Yes. And so that allowed him to be able to pull out the Pantheon before he did it now, or the Cat, or the Syndra, all those other things. But because you have to be proficient at 7, that takes away all the reps you can get at working on these fringe picks. Like, I think earlier in the season we've seen like a Zoe or Galio's popped up as something that everyone kind of knows how to play, but like who knows how to masterfully play it? Like, you don't know. And now it doesn't feel like it's a strength of his anymore. And I just want him to focus back on like, hey, let's get that Ari back up to snuff and be like as good as we know that you can be. So
I always thought of ShowMaker as back in 2021 when I first came in as a caster, watching ShowMaker play, I think back to the Lucian mid meta. He was playing Lucian mid. Lucian was banned almost every game, but you're fucked if you gave it to ShowMaker, man. He'd absolutely smash his lane. Having like Chovy-esque performances like what Chovy is doing now, 4 years ago, 5 years ago, he was doing this.
Yeah.
And he's always been the player that if he generates a massive lead and he has that early skirmish win and he buys him a Jais and he's like feeling himself, ShowMaker has to be in the right mindset and he has to be dominant. If he has a shaky game, then he's like the anti-clutch. Like he will try to carry the game and fail, but when he's having a good game, he'll flash charm kill the 80 carry and you're like, holy shit, what a play. Where was that ShowMaker last week? And like that's the kind of thing that we're kind of going in circles about, but I do feel will be the deciding factor. And like right now, we're gonna do our Preds later, but right now I'm ready to Pred Nongshim because I just don't trust that ShowMaker will show up that day.
All right. Well, before we dive into Preds, we still got to talk about the race for second, which is important. And before we do that, it's time to remind you about our friends over at Turtle Beach. Now, Turtle Beach have the Stealth 700 headset that has the first ever cross-play dual wireless system that allows you to connect to multiple devices at once. You've heard us talk about it before, but you're gaming, you're listening to your PC with your games, but also you can connect to your phone, be able to take phone calls at the same time. So check on out turtlebeach.com. Use the code Monte Wolf to get yourself percentage off. That's Monte Wolf over at turtlebeach.com. Thanks to our friends over at Turtle Beach.
Thanks so much.
All right, so second place. Why is it important here, Wolf? That was a rhetorical. I got it.
So, I mean,
I got it. It's because then you play GenG and you'll get blasted. But if you don't get blasted, you could theoretically qualify.
If GenG over or underperforms on that day, or you have a good read on them in that best of 5,
you can qualify directly in. And also, it's a gauntlet, right? So theoretically, third and second, second, you at least get one stage game in. You could qualify against GenG if they have a bad day. You get used to playing on-site because we're going to be on-site in Busan, and that match is played on Friday. It is the first match played on Busan. So then they would sit out, watch the third, fourth match play. You get to read the third place team, and then you play your MSI qualifier on Sunday.
So it's also for me, like I think for some of the player perspective, is like, we proved we could be the second best team, even though we don't have Zeus anymore. They took Zeus, right? And now, like, maybe we can actually beat them directly, like at the first match on Wednesday next week.
Yeah.
Prove themselves in that direct matchup. That's always been a cool rivalry we've been following this year. Like, we didn't get it until that playoff match in LCK Cup, which knocked T1 out of contention for first stand.
That was cool. I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about that.
There's so many like cool elements to this for T1 taking away Hanwha. For people who've been doubting Hanwha like me and been saying they're a little bit fraudulent with how they're playing, it might be the time where T1 gets to solidify and say like we're the second best team. yes, you get that huge advantage moving into the bracket, and if T1 doesn't get it, that's like basically factually the reason that they're going to be feeling bad that they got third place. But I think there's probably an element of like Guma being like, yeah, fuck the haters, by the way. Like, remember, like 2 months ago, everyone was like, I don't know, and there was a whole bunch. Now no one's even talking about it. He's like already like, that's over. I am the guy. It's me. I'm the 80 carry. I'm going to help carry this team into second place.
He did get player of the game for the first time last season, and it sounded like murders were happening at Lowell Park. That's the level of cheers and support he had was highest out of any player. Any player. It was crazy.
T1 did lose a game to DNF, but then DNF said, no, you can have it. Like, they literally lost to DNF. Like, I keep thinking that series went to 3 in my brain because T1 did literally lose, but then DNF was like, oh, Wolf, hold my mouse and keyboard, and I unplugged my computer, and my monitor is off, and we lost this one. Because DNF is atrociously bad. But anyway,
why, man?
I think T1 didn't take that series very seriously, and but we do have to address that, like, they almost lost to DNF. Well, that was kind of crazy. But I don't know. I look at T1 and I go, at their best, they have the clutch factor. They have what Hanwha doesn't have in bad game states. T1's down 2,500 gold. They might have that perfect Baron sneak. Or they turn off the Baron because they got vision control. Faker makes the call. They go to Baron. The enemy team runs over, and then they win the team fight. Or they burn the Baron fast enough and get out. Like, they have those moments that I think makes them very powerful. Like, they're early, mid-game, not as strong as GenG, not as strong as Hanwha's, I think, frankly. But when it comes to the late game team fights that decide the game, that's where I think T1 has some Faker shot calling magic right now, which we've talked about for the last decade because it keeps happening. But I'm just not seeing that from Hanwha. Like, it's the Viper like team fight cleanup magic that sometimes gets them over the line in those shaky moments. But T1 has made a lot of great calls. Karria's form has improved. I think Karria's back to where Karria fans want him to be, and Doran is still Doran, but I think Doran loses focus sometimes, but I think that Doran is not as strong as Zeus. Like, I think we can all agree about that. But I don't think that he's a big enough liability that it can cost them games. Like, T1 is so good that they can win those clutch fights despite Doran oftentimes.
Let's do this drill. Start from the bottom lane. Viper Delight or Guma Karria? Right now. Just right now.
I feel like I have to go Viper Delight because even though Karria might be like one rung above Delight, like I feel like Viper's like 3 rungs above Guma. So if I have to like average them, I go Viper Delight.
So
in terms of overall power, if I'm talking about the 2v2 lane, are you talking about the 2v2 lane? Like if they lane against each other, who's going to win lane? Who's going to generate advantages?
No, overall.
Then overall, I have Viper Delight.
Yeah, because otherwise we'd have to be like early game, mid game, late game for every role lane, right? Overall, I agree with you, but I think it's a closer gap. Guma and Viper. I think he's peaking at the right time, which is what T1 always does. Mid, Zeka or Faker, overall.
Like when I want to say like Faker's laning is worse, but like his team fighting is better. I think I have to go Zeka because I think the lane is really important right now. It gives you jungle prio, gives you a lot of control. Faker's laning has been pretty weak on average. I think I'm going to have to go Zeka.
Also, everyone, I'm putting him on the spot. So we did not talk about this. He's doing a good job.
Yeah, I'm just like, I'm trying to see.
Also, I agree with Zeka right now. Like, I think right now Zeka has been better in the wins and in the losses. It's not his fault either. Let's go to jungle.
Owner.
Yeah.
Owner. It's owner.
Owner. My MVP second place vote is owner. Okay. In top,
Zeus.
Really, I think I would take Doran right now because I think that meta shift is really screwing Zeus, and I think Doran hasn't like when we did. I think we talked about it as like Doran's gonna be your guy on Gwen, and he's gonna like try to carry these things. He actually is kind of doing it this week, and yes, he played against Dudu and Clear or no,
Dudu and.
Dubororo, what's his name?
Oh, Saburo. Yeah,
Saburo.
That's right.
Sorry, Saburo. So like, yes, it was lower competition, but he handled it.
I was like, it was B&K. Like, what are you talking? Yeah, it was Saburo this week.
Yeah, and so I kind of wonder if like, okay, all that like, hey, I have like an 8 CS lead or like the highest gold difference at 15. Zeus will no longer be able to cover up these mistakes if he has to play Sion.
Yeah, the side lane stuff as well is a little bit concerning, but I think it's more of a team issue. But like, basically, we did outside of owner like give Hanwha 4 out of 5, right?
Yeah.
But if you ask me, like, what about though Doran, owner, Faker, Guma, Keria in a 5v5 against the whole Hanwha roster? I'm like, I think I give it to T1 though. And like in those late game fights for Soul, fights for Elder, fights for Baron, fights for Otacon, I'm like, that's where I vote T1 like every time. Even though there's going to be lane problems. The way I foresee this series going is like T1's riding a 2,000 gold deficit the whole game, and then they win anyways. Like, that's kind of how I see it. Maybe it's even a 3,000 gold deficit, but they win in the end. Like, that's how I imagine the series going right now.
Well, it'll be a best of 3, and then we'll get the best of 5 at Road to MSI, most likely, unless something catastrophic happens to GenG, the best team in the world. Pred's time then.
All right, let's pull them up.
Let's do it. Okay. We start with that very first banger match of the day. That is the first one, right? I think it's the first one. Scrolling.
It's the second one of the first day. So unless you think BNK DNF is a banger.
I do think it's a banger. It's another opportunity for the DN Automotive freaks to get some roadkill. Come on.
Well, they only have 2 chances left.
Well,
and their other matchup is Dplus.
It's not going to be Dplus. All right, BNK or DNF.
BNK.
I'll take DNF. I'm just bombing my predictions.
Sure.
T1 versus Hanwha.
I'm going T1. I think most people will not, but I'm going T1.
You've logicked me into it all week long, even off show. He said he was going to predict T1, and then after
I convinced Brendan. I think Brendan is also a T1 predator.
Yeah, I'm going Hanwha. I can't.
You're like Wolf's last place in Pred, so like I shouldn't trust him.
No, it's not that. It's just I'm giving the advantage to the team that has earned it, I think.
Well, I mean, I think we rationalized when we did the individual lane matchups and stuff like why Hanwha should win.
Yeah.
But I don't know if they will.
Yeah. DRX, bro. Give me the bros.
Well, I think I have to go Bro as well. I think Bro's actually looking kind of clean these days.
Yeah,
Bro's actually kind of legit. I think they might run the Rise group if they can continue to reach this level.
Yeah, I just need them to follow their draft plan. Holy shit. GenG over KT. Is this the loss?
No, I'm not believing in the KT bullshit. Like, 50-50. This is the one. No, I'm going GenG.
Okay, GenG.
I think GenG's just too good. I think GenG's getting the perfect season.
I don't think so.
We think they're gonna lose to Bro.
T1 versus Nongshim.
T1.
It has to be T1.
I can't pred T1 versus Hanwha and then not pred them against Nongshim.
That would make T1 sense, though. Dplus over DNF, that's Dplus. KT over DRX, that's KT.
Over DRX, yep.
This is my bro pick. Bros over GenG, 17-1. The Legends of the Rise group.
It's not impossible. It's not impossible. But it's very implausible. And I'm going to give this one GenG.
All right. Safe pick Steve over here. I didn't know
safe pick Steve. I'm safe pick Steve.
I didn't know I was working with Chronicler. Let's go Hanwha and BNK Furex.
Hanwha.
And then, who do you got making it into Legend Group? Do you have Dplus or do you have Nongshim?
Nongshim. Like I said earlier, I just can't. I can't trust that in that high pressure matchup, ShowMaker isn't just gonna fucking miss 5 people that are stacked on top of each other with Emperor's Divide somehow. Like I'm not even trying to shit on ShowMaker, by the way. I feel really bad that like he's having a bad time. Like this is a thing that like even the Korean commentators like after the game like some kid like looks at me and he's like, man, like I miss the old ShowMaker. Like everybody feels like ShowMaker can do it, and it's a tragedy that this team that has such a cool roster and has such a cool storyline, and ShowMaker's like, this is my team for life. Like he signed a 3-year contract. He's like, I'm gonna stay with this org until I retire. And like he's underperforming, and the team believed in him, and he's messing it up. Is something that like breaks all of us inside, especially like Atlas and Chronicler, who are actually like legit kind of closet Dplus fans. And
Chronicler's not a closet Dplus fan.
Yeah, well, he's just out in the open. But and like Max kind of plays it off like he's only a Barrel fan, or like, oh, it's Def this time is the no. Max loves Dplus. He loves Dom One. He loves the whole storyline. But like, it's I think because we care so much that we get mad, and that I get mad, and that I go, he's not going to do it. I can't trust him. I'm tired of trusting this team, and I just won't trust him. And I'm going to think that Nongshim will just be like mediocre, and Dplus will drop the ball, and Nongshim will win, and Nongshim will get into the legend group, and everyone will be really sad and confused and like, I can't believe that they're not there. Like they're in the losers group, and I used to love this team, and I could see the Reddit thread already. I could see the post game thread of like, man, ShowMaker should just retire because people have these crazy outlandish takes. But like, can you imagine a world where like they play as well as they did against Hanwha against Nongshim, and or like, oh yeah, I guess they were legends all along? Like, can you see that in your head? Because I can't see it. I can't see it.
I can.
I can only see the tragedy. I cannot see the like, oh, thank God we barely made it in, but like we made it. Oh, I can't see it.
Even if they make it in, they're just going to get destroyed. Like, they are going to be the punching bag of the Legends group. Whichever team. Actually, no. I can see Nongshim winning in the Legend group if they make it, but I don't think they're making the Legends group. I think it's going to be Dplus, and I think Dplus is just going to get shit on.
Weirdly enough, I feel like Dplus, like, they lose those games against teams they don't respect, and like in those low pressure situations, they fuck it up. Like I said against Bro, like they're like, oh, we can't lose to Bro, like, and then they mess it up. Where it should be a low pressure situation, but it turns into a high pressure situation for them. I feel like when they're the underdog in the Legend group, if they are, then they actually randomly upset like everybody all the time, and it's actually really good for them. I feel like for Dplus as a team, it's really important that they're not in the Rise group, because like they will just randomly like be like third place in the Rise group after week 3 because you're like, wait, what? Like, you were almost in Legend and now you're consistently losing to B and K? Like, what happened?
What you're saying is DNF have better chances to get wins if Dplus.
Yeah, kind of. I'm kind of basically saying that, yeah. Oh my God, the more I think about it, I'm like, oh, it's all going to be bad. Like, no, Dplus, please win.
Yeah.
Please win. I need you to win, but I'm not going to predict you to win, but I need you to win. Please do it.
Well, those are the stakes, not only just for this road to MSI gauntlet, but also the rest of the season for these teams. We made our picks, we made our predictions. He has it, Nongshim KT making it in.
Yeah, Nongshim KT.
I have Dplus KT making it in. Crazy that we're putting expectations on KT, but here we are. We'll see what happens this week. Thanks to everyone watching and enjoying this unique setup that we had for this episode of Monte Wolf. Again, thanks to our partners and friends for making this episode happen. Thank you for commenting and liking, and make sure to check out everything here that we have over on Last Free Nation, Last Free Nation Gaming, Last Free Nation Culture as well. And we'll see you next week for the end of round 2. See ya.